Join me today as I show you how to make a really simple cane to make lemons that we can slice or serve whole. Join me and see how easy this fun project is. So once again, the first thing I'm going to tell you is to look at the real thing. And even though all my grocery store had was super big, kind of ugly lemons, it still gives me information. It gives me a good color for the skin. It gives me the general shape. Now this is huge, so just be warned, yours probably won't be that big. But look at your lemon, get an idea for the color, the size. Notice there's texture on the peel, things like that. Ahead of time, I've got my clay conditioned. This is some of that translucent yellow plus translucent that we had for the lemon bars. And I've made it into a nice kind of a drum shape, I guess you'd say, a little cylinder that's not too tall. And I'm going to cut it as close to the middle as I can. It's kind of hard with the camera because normally my head would be right here. And then into 4. I like to do them in 8. It's not too many to keep track of. If you're really ambitious, you might want to even go another cut into each and make more wedges. 8 is acceptable, and it's probably plenty. So now we have 8 wedges of yellow, and that's a very translucent yellow, because remember, it's half translucent and half translucent yellow. Now what we need is we need to lay these down. This is, and this is white. I've pre-prepared all my clays ahead, got them conditioned and rolled out. This is a white with half white and half translucent. It's actually left over from the base mix from the apples we made a while back. And I've rolled it out to about the 3rd setting on my pasta machine. You want it fairly thin. It doesn't have to be, like paper thin, but you want a thin-ish roll on it. And you'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. So what I need is a piece of that white next to each of these wedges. There. And now we're going to take a little bit of the white and make a little bit of a snake. So now we're going to take these wedges and we're going to reassemble around, adding these little white pieces, the translucent and white. Whoops, I'm not under camera. Let me get this out of my way. Now that I've got 4 of them together, I can take this little snake of the excess white, and that's going to go right in the middle. It's going to act as a holder, kind of to fill that center. And we're going to continue around. And I love making, this is called, when you're doing this, we're making a cane that we're going to create our lemons out of. And I love making canes. They're so much fun, and they make such an impressive looking finished product, but they're really simple if you just take it one step at a time. All right, now I'm going to push this all together and make sure everything is in good contact. It doesn't look like much yet. Get the rest of this thin white out. Now I have more of this white and translucent mix. This I rolled out to the thickest setting on my pasta machine. We want this to go around it, but we don't want it to overlap. We want it to butt up against the ends against each other, but we don't want them to overlap at any point. We can get that nice and tight. And now I have a thin piece of yellow. Now this is Primo Cadmium Yellow. Cadmium Yellow. Not that I can talk today. This is going to be the first layer of our peel. We'll actually be adjusting our color at the very end. Okay, cut that a little too short, so cut a little piece. Again, we want the color to, the layer to butt up, but we don't really want a lot of overlap. There. Now we've got our cane started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to really kind of squish it in our hand, between our hands, and we're going to work it together. What I'm doing is I'm making sure that those layers, all those pieces, are firmly against each other. Now I can start rolling. Okay, so big enough space, I've got room to work. If you start doing this part before you get this really put together firmly, your cane can twist. Let me back the camera up just a bit. Your cane can kind of twist in the middle, and that will affect how it looks. And we're going to make both whole lemons and sliced lemons, and we're going to have some left to make some just slices of lemon to go on things. One of the things I like to do is I like to keep these canes on hand. Just put them in a Ziploc bag someplace where they're safe. Don't bake them, just put them off to the side unbaked, and then you've got them when you want to add a lemon slice to something. I know that I want to go down to about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. And yeah, this is going to make a lot of lemon. Sorry if I'm moving the camera. I think I might be jiggling just a little bit. So I'm going to cut this in half so that I don't have to work with quite as long of a piece. And you can already see it's looking really nice in the middle. Now if you're just going to make whole lemons, do you really need to make the cane? Yeah, maybe not, but it's good practice. And I would at the very least make a light yellow center and put the white and then the yellow on the outside, simply because just a piece of yellow clay made into a lemon will actually look a lot heavier. Having that translucent center really does make a difference. Now I've got a whole guide here. I've got one of these circle, what do they call them, circle template. And yeah, this is just about right. It's just under 5/8 of an inch. And our first cane, because our ends don't look very good, so that's the perfect place to make a whole lemon. Some people just cut those off and put that part into the scrap clay, but I always make a whole piece of fruit off of that end. Why make it go in my scrap clay when it's perfectly good clay? I'm quickly looking around trying to find my ruler. Now I want right around a 1/2 inch, I think. I don't want my lemons to be too horribly big. And I can check my end. I have nice wedges, so that can be a sliced, from there on it can be sliced lemons. Now, I'm pulling, using my fingers. I want to pull this yellow part to the outside. And we're going to touch up this skin color after these are all baked and cooled. So don't worry if the skin color kind of cracks like it has on this one. That's okay. Now, kind of make a lemon shape. Remember, one end of your lemon is more pointed than the other. And my lemon has this little kind of beige with green stem end in it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little ball tool, and this one already has a little bit of a shape like that. Now I have some, on my side of my tray here, I have some little scraps left from when I made the lemon bars. So I'm going to take a piece of that Sahara that I used for the crust on that, any tan color. Off to the side here I have my chalks and a Q-tip. I'm just going to put a little bit of green chalk kind of on the edges of that. And now I'm going to use my tool kind of put that in there. And I'm going to cut off the excess because it's a little bigger than I wanted. There. Now it's got a little green around the edges. And we've got a basic lemon shape, but it doesn't have a lemon texture yet. So what I'm going to do, I've got 60 grit sandpaper here. I'm going to roll this on the 60 grit sandpaper until it's got a nice texture. And to make that texture a little more textured, I'm going to use a toothbrush and just kind of pounce the toothbrush. And you'll lose a little of your shape this way. That's okay. Just work with your fingers and kind of put it back where it was. But there's, I'm going to make that end just a little more round, a little more pointy, and maybe off to the side. There's a basic lemon. So I'll move that over here to my paper plate that I have to bake it on. Let's do the other, I'll come back to the other end. Now we've got this part. We're down to the good part of our cane. So what I can do is I can pull this end back again like I did on the other one. I'm going to enclose this. I'm going to cut off about a ½ inch. And remember, in real life, lemons come in all sizes, so some can be bigger than others. I'm going to pull this one. And this one, once I get it done, we're going to cut it in half, which is the really cool part about this. Now I've got the rest of that part and it's got a little bit of green chalk on it already. So I'm going to push that down in there. There. Now, we're going to roll this on the sandpaper again. We're going to pounce it with the toothbrush. And like I said, don't worry about that yellow cracking. Just like with the apples that I showed you a few weeks ago, we are going to layer color. One layer of color does not give us good color. Now, I'm actually going to leave this on the sandpaper because then it won't lose its texture. I'm going to cut this in half with my clay blade. You kind of roll it as you cut it. There. Now, we have a lemon. And it's got segments and everything. But I want to have a little, just a little bit of texture. So I'm dragging this end of my dental pick towards the center. On this, I'm not going in circles like I did on the lemon bars. I'm dragging from the outside to the inside, kind of scratching it. There. And I'll put that on its tray, and let's see if I can move the camera down. And let's see how close can I get. Yeah, it's still. We're just doing this, and we're only scraping on the yellow. Now when you're not trying to do this on camera, and you can actually, I find it easiest to pull this up to my body so that my hands are resting against me. It makes it easy to get it right where I can see what I'm doing, but the camera can't see that then. And there. Now let's go down just a little bit, and let's make a couple of slices. So you're making, okay, I got that all flat. Let me, let's roll it as we cut it, and then you can kind of pull it out again. But if you've got a cake or a lemon pie or something like that, you can cut one like this. Cut to the center or a little beyond. form it like that, and bake it right in that position. And you could put this right onto a piece of pie or whatever. It would be very pretty. So I'm going to form some more of this cane into some cut lemons and some slices. I'm going to bake them, and when I get them all baked, I'll be back and we'll put a finish on the outside and on the inside. Alright, as you can see, I've got these all baked off. I made some half lemons, I made some plain slices, I made a couple of slices that were twisted, I made the whole one. And I also did, although that's why it doesn't look very good, I made a couple of wedges. For this, all I did was I took the same translucent mixture and just coated it, made a ball, and put a thin layer of white and a thinner layer of yellow around it. And it makes nice little wedges if you just want wedges. So now we need to go on to our next step. And that will be, we want the lemon part, the lemon flesh part, to look a little bit wet. So for that, I want to get some triple thick. Oops, triple thick. Get it under the camera, not next to it. Just put a little dab at that. And I've got a small paintbrush. And on all the ones that have, where we can see, now we don't want to get this on the white on these little wedges if we can avoid it. Put that like that. On these cut ones, we're just going to put in the center. Try to avoid the pith around right underneath the peel. Our slices. The slices we'll have to do one side and then turn over and do the other side. Oops. Time to juggle. But I'm going to coat all of these pieces with the clear. I'm going to wash my brush, and when this is all dry, I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. All right, now that we have the shiny part all dry, we need to touch up the outside and get this color a little bit closer to a real lemon, and then it also will cover up some of those spots. Ceramic coat makes a paint, it's funny, I didn't even look at the name of the paint when I picked it out. I picked it out by color, and this happens to be lemon yellow. Put a little drop of this out on my tray. One of the reasons I like to get this part, the flesh, covered in the clear finish first is it protects it. If I get this paint on there, I can wipe it off easier. Now I know some people like to just put the paint on the outside and not put the yellow clay, and some people like to put a thicker coat of yellow clay on. I prefer the combination. Oh, and have a wet wipe. I have a wet wipe right here, and between each lemon piece, wipe your fingers. I prefer the combination because I think by layering the colors, we get a more realistic look, and it adds a little depth to the color. And it kind of emphasizes some of the texture too in places. And this doesn't have to be completely even. As long as you get the white parts coated, you can leave some spots that are not coated with paint. So I'm just going to finish this, and this paint dries really quickly, so we'll be able to go on to our final step here as soon as this paint dries. So I'll finish these and then I'll be back when the paint is dry. Now that the paint is dry, we have one more step, and that's our future floor polish step. And we're not going to put this, I don't bother to put this on the little slices because there's not enough outside on those to matter. I'll put it on the wedges. Whoops, did not mean to drop that in there, but that's okay. Should have a wet wipe. need to do is coat the outside of these. Trying to avoid the part we already finished, but that's alright, it won't hurt it any. And this guy, we can just basically roll this one. And now those just need to dry. I need to wash my brush out, and when they are, they'll be ready to display in whatever scene you have. So when these get dry, I'll get some photos to put on the video and also on the blog. Be sure and come check us out on Facebook. Be sure and check the blog, and come back next week and see what we make then.